when I was a kid, I always had this kind of knack for selling things. We used to open up a small little stall in front of our gateway and fill up all these tubes of plastic, and we freeze them, and we used to sell it at 20 cents or 25 cents. The first MCO was the hardest because we really do not know what were we getting ourselves into. Then obviously probably would have to close down lah, A lot of the times people set up businesses which they do it because they think it's fun. I believe that whenever you set up, especially F&B, there must be a certain soul to it. You'll see you and me together in a place without no one else but us. I wanna take you there. I wanna take you there. I wanna take you there tonight. It's another universe,
Hi, Derric Chew here, the author of Mindsets Worth Billion. What an awesome day today. Okay, be able to meet up with Darren Chin, the man behind DC Restaurant located at Taman Tun Dr. Ismail. Hi, Darren.
Hi, Derric.
Okay, thanks for spending time to meet me today.
You're welcome.
Every profession, okay, there must be something trigger the person to start off. What inspired you to become a chef? And what is your specialty?
Well, I mean, I've been cooking professionally for the last 25 years already lah. I started very young, was exposed to the business at a very young age. But I guess a huge integral part of that would have been my family lah. They have always been very supportive, and I think the inspiration builds along the way.
All right.
And the drive and the passion, has always been there. It's just every phase of life have different chapters lah. So I wouldn't say that I was completely inspired by other chefs to become a chef by myself, but I would say that it was more of a very inspirational journey for myself lah. And I've enjoyed it so far.
Is that something you've been thinking since childhood day?
Not really. I mean, I wouldn't imagine myself becoming who I am right now. I think, as I said, every phase in life has a certain pedestal that everyone needs to take, and take that in good stride lah, and you learn from those successes and also mistakes at the same time.
I mean, Darren, do you want to share, during childhood day, what you've been thinking to do when you grow up?
I was just like any other KL boy. I was born here. I mean, when you're living and breathing and expose yourself to food and beverage, at a very young age, I think naturally I have had the privilege to experience before lah. I mean, like back in my day, we started off living in a very small TDI terrace house, and that was converted into a factory and as well as a production house, to house and produce food for Dave's Deli, something with my dad set up with my mom. And we were sleeping in one master room with all my siblings in it, my mom and dad, and the kitchen was converted into this huge kind of a mini factory like, and of course, we were doing coleslaw and like making pies, and everyone would help out, and send out food to the respective outlets.
Everything is in the same place.
Yes. Our living room or study became a storeroom. So I was very much exposed to those kind of things, and naturally. When I was a kid, I always had this kind of knack for selling things. And I used to make, as I recall when I was younger, we used to open up a small little stall in front of our gateway, and we used to sell like ice cream potong, where we mix our own ice water of different flavors. Assam boy, I think last time was like Ribena, and we fill up all these tubes of plastic, and we freeze them, and we used to sell it at 20 cents or 25 cents. So I mean, those are very fond memories I have, back when I was a kid. And of course, with the exposure of Dave's Deli, and then my, used to help out on weekends. I used to help out in the outlet. And then those were small little building blocks lah, of what proceeded further lah. Then of course, when you graduate, everyone has a certain loss of way, and I was thinking, what do I like to do with my teenage life, or what's next, you see? And decided to enroll with a professional chef training course in KU, local college. And that was a very simple 2-year diploma course. And I was, after that, decided to work with the family's business. But there was a pivoting moment in my life that I had to turn around. And that was, in all seriousness, my turning point in my life.
All right.
Which we can get back to that later on.
Sure. All right. So what's your proudest moment as a chef?
Oh.
Something you feel proud about it?
In terms of achievements and that kind of proudness of what I've achieved so far, I mean, of course, there are many stages in this so-called journey that
right.
I've gone through. And then, of course, at the beginning, it started off with really trying to prove myself and to get my name out there, or like to win awards, which we obviously have. We were set out to create and to establish not just our brand, but a product which was quite scarce at that time. So the timing of us coming into the circuit was quite at a good timing. But along those ways, we created a very nice, strong clientele base, and we managed to establish ourselves along this way. I mean, these are all little building moments for me that make me feel more established. And this is what I feel sometimes is the most rewarding.
All right. Because of this pandemic, there's a lot of food business, or even many businesses out there are forced to close their doors. So what challenges, are you facing, and how do you tackle them during this pandemic?
Frankly, we split out into 3 parts. The first MCO was the hardest because we really do not know what were we getting ourselves into. So it's to kind of understand and look back based on that. So if that clearly was not the first example, then obviously you probably would have to close down. But one for me is understanding and knowing how to manage your business and your cash flow as well.
That's important.
Yes, of course. But what I've realized so far is not just that also as well, but it's about your clients.
True.
Ever since the pandemic hit, you must understand that the clientele base, it's only a small circle of people. And to maintain and sustain that as part of your business structure for the next 2 or 3 years, which we have predicted the pandemic to carry on, till such time, business still carries on. So during the first MCO, we really wanted to see where we stood. But at the end of the day, we already pivoted from then already.
Okay.
And we have not stopped since, you see.
All right.
So the whole idea now, in a nutshell, is actually whatever businesses that people have outside, whether or not F&B and so forth. But F&B is my specialty.
Yes.
Importantly is to maintain and sustain a relatively good cash flow. I try not to borrow money in whatever possible way.
Very good.
Because once you start owing people money, this is no different than if you borrow from Along or go gambling, and you gamble everything, then you either win or you lose. So this is the biggest advice I can give. Try not to borrow any money. I know it's difficult, but then again, you must have a lot of self-belief, that whatever product that you have, it is the real thing. It is something which is sincere and generous at the same time. You're not cheating people. You're being generous in the way that you're being very sincere to yourself and
ethical.
People, because people know these things, somehow or other. The public know what are they paying for, what are they buying, how original your product is. very importantly also to try and cultivate a nice fan base to relate your brand and your ethos and your models and your technique and your contribution
True.
and you keep them updated, you keep them notified, somehow or other these kind of intangible things convert into a monetary sense. It's a very strange way which I myself cannot put a pin to it and say that, because I did a cooking demo today, I get this so much back of ROI in return. So it is more of a courteous sense, and people like personalities like that, nowadays, especially now, because it's not about how much money they're going to spend with me or like buy my product, how expensive it's going to be or how cheap it's going to be. It's more of like, what is the value that they get back in return if they follow and support and it is a continuous thing,
True. Well, I mean, one of the point I like most is not to borrow money as much as you can. I mean, I do the same as well. Okay, for 20 over years, okay, in business, it's more like self-funding. I mean, when you borrow money from, whether from bank or from anyone else, you feel like there is like a pressure or stress within you. Okay, that you got to work hard, okay, and then like pay back, okay, to this bank or to someone, whoever borrow you the money. Yeah.
One of the things also is important is to try to take whatever money that you have earned. Some people can be quite stingy lah. Okay, when it comes, you need to use the money and reinvest into the business that you have acquired. So of course, this has to come with ambition and to see what goals you set for yourself. So you need to manage those personal expectations of yourself, because you can't always say that there must be a plan at the end of the day, and there must be some targets or something that you have looking forward to. So the money that you earn, which you don't want to borrow from the bank and so forth, it's also important to take the money and reinvest back into certain betterment of whatever you were doing before.
Yes.
Be it education, be it material things, but material things have certain function. So, like for example, we're sitting in a Louis XIII room, this is a certain activation that I know will fit well with my brand. So it's a reinvestment of a product that is fitting towards my clientele. And for profiling on my brand base, it increases
to a higher level,
to a different level altogether. Irregardless, we all know that this product is expensive, for example, but we also trying to push ourselves to greater heights. What is the next step and the next step? So it's a constantly progressive thing. And I think that's very important during this pandemic. You cannot stop. You cannot become comfortable in what you have or being used to what you're doing before. It's this constant pushing and constant evolution of oneself. And of course, with the pandemic, frankly, it's accelerated. And I would say the acceleration is close to 200 to probably 300% of a person's normal way of looking at so-called success rate or like, ambition, of like business, it's accelerated, extremely accelerated.
200 to 300.
And this is what I believe. So it's like whatever that we have achieved so far over the last 1 year or so is something that we'll probably achieve in the next 3 to 4, even 5 years. But it pushes you to that brink of, before you have nothing to lose. We can just sit back and just take it in our own stride and be comfortable and, take our time.
You can if you want,
Yeah, but with so many restrictions and with so many safety aspects at play, with so many, I would say, unforeseen circumstances that can happen, this pandemic is serious in that sense. The only thing is that you cannot manage is the virus. That's the only thing you cannot manage. Other things you can manage. Money, human relations, HR, PR, branding, product, things that you can be in control of. It can be things that you can be in control of, things which are very tangible that you can be in control of.
Do what is under your control.
And these are the things which are very important to people who want to get inspired.
True. A lot of F&B business are able to last for more than a year or two. Okay. So how did you survive the first year for DC business? Any essential tips?
Well, basically, it's all about timing.
Mm.
I honestly believe that our timing came in at the right place at the right time with the right product.
Mm.
At the time, we talked about 7 years ago.
7 years ago.
Things were still catching on and being a little bit progressive. And there were a lot of things, a lot of ideas, even until today, that I kind of resonate back in my training when I was in France. So when I got back from France, back then, I had a lot of ideas going on my head. But I was also trying to find myself and also trying to find out what kind of message I'm trying to send to the public. So obviously, whatever that we set out 7 years ago may not be viable as a business now.
All right.
So it's very important to self-realize your dream and your message. You need to self-believe, but you try not to owe people any of the explanation, because you naturally it will come to you. It's not being arrogant. It's being very confident, and
it's more like a self-belief, that kind of thing, sir.
Believe that whatever that you have that you are trying to do really resonates what your real intentions are. True. A lot of the times people set up businesses which they do it because they think it's fun.
They do it.
They do it because, oh, it's going to make me a lot of money. They do it because they have this perfect recipe in their head that might be perfect to all, and everyone's going to love it. All my friends love it, and everyone else going to love it. So I'm going to set up something. I believe that whenever you set up, especially F&B, there must be a certain soul to it. And the soul is the key to the brand and to the product itself. This is something that is either you have it in you or you don't have it in you. You can make believe, means that you can create stories, you can create a lot of peripheral things which can constitute to the product itself. But if the true intention of that is not grounded on, I don't see it as being sustainable. So these are little in-between ways of me trying to say that, very importantly, okay, you have a concept, you have a soul. You must also know how to manage money and manage business, and try not to overspend, but also try not to spend things which are unnecessary
stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of people, okay, when they start make money, okay, or well, I mean, the kind of cash flow, okay, management, they are unable to manage it properly. They will start spend, okay, on unnecessary stuff. Okay, that's where, okay, the cash flow, okay, will disappear.
True. I mean, I give you an example, like everything can be managed in a certain way where if you have more experience, you're able to forecast a lot more.
Agreed.
A lot of times in F&B, it's always related to lifestyle. So lifestyle of a business owner that thinks that I want to set up a restaurant, so why should I go and spend that much money outside if I can have my own restaurant? But actually you spend even more. And I don't want to categorize but the failure rate can be quite high because you look at it as more of fulfilling your lifestyle, that void of something that you like to do with your life. F&B is actually a business in itself. It can be very destroying actually, because you end up leaking so much of money which is unnecessary, and I find that you need to be in control of that. And of course, there's always service, there's beverage, there is food, there is the skill, there's so many other peripherals that needs to be considered, and of which people who own businesses like that are normally not in control of that. Not in control of those aspects of buying and selling, and then suddenly take a profit altogether. And this is what I've realized so far in most F&B entities, especially the newer setup, because I give you a ballpark figure, all right? So if you want to set up a restaurant in let's say TDDI, for example, these units are pretty standardized. So the sizing is more or less there.
Okay.
So you do something like this, it's going to cost you 1.2 million, for example. So it's easily, yeah. You want to set up something even more elaborate, probably 1.5 million. So 1.5 million, this is just the startup cost. You haven't even started business yet. So you're hoping that people will come and support and pay and have their meals here, and
Right.
But the real question is whether they come back again and again and again and again. So that's what you want.
The recurring stuff.
Yeah, of course, because customer loyalty and customer retention is extremely important to this business. And people sometimes don't realize that, and they overlook a lot of these aspects of things.
True.
So once you got hold of that, then you must look at the margins, and also, most importantly, restaurant people don't look at wastages. There's actually a lot of product outing one, which you don't see. So sometimes food wastage, beverage wastage can even reach up to 18 to 20%.
Oh, that's very high.
Extremely high.
Very
extremely high. So all these things are correlated to a lot of other things. Things like staffing, things like skill set, things like the capability of the cook, or the chef, the way he manages the situation. If I go back and think, then yes, this is probably one of the key aspects of our success, because for me, one person is in charge.
Okay.
For everything. The bigger you are, of course, you need very good lieutenants or people who follow you, to take over those responsibilities. But the key here is that you set the kind of SOP, or you set the kind of way of doing things, right? It translates into profitability later on.
Cool. Especially when you grow, okay, you are unable to do all the things by yourself. You need a team,
Yes, of course. But the team members are important to you only if the trust is being built.
Yep.
So once you have established the trust, it takes time. And trust is something that you have to learn from mistakes.
Yes.
And whether or not as entrepreneur or boss, you're willing to forgive. Depending on the level of the mistake. Not unless it's intentionally done. If it's unintentionally done, then of course, it's very easy. It's easier to forgive. But of course, circumstances have different output. Yes, the team is extremely important to build. You need time to build that. It's not going to happen overnight.
Yes.
And it's something that we are quite privileged to have achieved so far, what we have right now.
Cool. So that's where it leads to the next question. So when you work with multiple restaurants, how do you manage?
It has to be consistent. It cannot be today salty, today spicy, the next day is a different thing altogether. But it has to be consistent. The Darren Chin DNA. Anyway, got fried rice, but why do I need to order the fried rice from this restaurant? I can always think, no lah, you eat lah, you don't eat lah. I mean, that's very naturally lah for people to react. But I look at it differently. These two things. There's no fast way about it. The more you do it, the better you get at it. There's no shortcut. Absolute no.